Hello and welcome back to the Jackass Express podcast. Today, I'll be discussing, despite its greatest intentions, would humanity survive during an actual zombie apocalypse? A real one, an actual one. And are we victims of emotionally controlled decision-making? And once again, today I have joining me Mr. Jeffrey Mickelson.
Hello.
Thank you for returning, Jeff. I appreciate your patronage, good sir.
Of course.
I was actually thinking about this earlier today. I'd love to get your thoughts on it because I was visiting my favorite zombie apocalypse survival course, Walmart. And as I was evading said zombies, I thought to myself, I don't think people would necessarily be... I mean, yes, to a certain extent, people would have to be selfish for survival purposes. But I feel like at the heart of it, people would actually try to help each other, and they would try to form like small societies. And I'm talking about total like blackout, like cell phones go down, telephones go down, radios go down, food is scarce, water is scarce, and all that stuff. And how do you work together to become what you need to be in order to survive such a thing? And I think even with the best of intentions, people would make it very difficult to survive. Like I always think, if you had a group of people and you had one job, one person or two person's job, whose it was to watch the door to the bunker, they would accidentally forget to lock the door, or something to that effect.
I hear not English in the background. I think we've been joined by one of your zombies that you were discussing.
Ah, yes.
Probably because it's super early or super late at night wherever he is.
Mr. Jonathan Chase, are you here with us today, good sir?
I don't know, I guess.
We welcome you live to the Pat Podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, are you live?
We are live.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm not alone in this podcast, I like to point out that in our joint endeavor, he's named this podcast after himself, our fearless leader.
Now, I would like to point out that the reason I have the Pat Podcast is because I realize there are opportunities not as available to everyone at the same time. So I still want to get something out. So
you could just say you're doing all the work.
That's one way of putting it, but I am not that type of person. I always believe that there's a team effort no matter what. So no worries. But I do appreciate you showing up today. That's very awesome. But what we were just discussing right now is the idea that even with the best of intentions in an actual zombie apocalypse, I don't know how we keep coming back to this topic, but I feel like people would work at a detriment to society's survival because we are genuinely forgetful people. We are emotionally driven people.
We definitely do make decisions based off of emotion. I don't know, I think humans can surprise you in some ways when, your life is on the line. You have to work as a team. Sometimes people can put aside their differences towards a common goal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I don't doubt that for 1 second. I just, like the example I was using with Jeff is that if you had a bunker with a small society underground that you're like, okay, we need this group of people over here to watch the doors at night so everybody can sleep, and then we'll switch out in the morning. How likely is it that those people will fail to lock the doors or fail to guard the door, or they would fall asleep?
Maybe the first day or so. But I think out of the necessity of survival, probably unlikely, considering that if they know that this is the key to their survival, then they're not going to forget it. Some people just naturally can take orders, so you have your leaders and your followers. And so the people who naturally take that leadership position have that way of convincing others to follow their directions. So the ones who are the followers know, well, if I don't listen to this guy, we're all going to die.
Right.
So I should probably take my job seriously.
It's interesting the angle that you took it. That's really cool that at the beginning, it was a very big understood that everybody had to do their job. In the case of the zombie apocalypse, I can see where survival being key is, and especially if you live alone, you're by yourself, you don't really have people to protect. You're just I have to survive this. I have to protect the group. I have to do what needs to be done. But then after time, you either do have to fall into one of those two categories. Do I help solve the problem, or am I participating in somebody else solving the problem? I feel like after a while, those people, most people, I don't want to, myself included. I'm not going to say that I'm just pointing out to people, myself included. It's hard to sustain a consistent effort with something that you don't genuinely feel is to your betterment. And I think, we see results of people, struggling with that every single day. And
but the thing is that sorry to interject.
No,
but
go ahead.
You're basing out the scenario of like a zombie apocalypse kind of thing.
Yes.
So no one's really gonna know how they're gonna react in those kind of situations. But I think when you're put in those kind of survival situations, then those old habits that you used to have are no longer going to be useful for you. So you're going to drop them very quickly. You can't really base how people act in a normal situation, like in everyday life, as opposed to a survival way of life.
That's a very good point. And I'm by no means saying that I'm the authority on what humans would and would not do. Believe me, my opinion is strictly just that, opinion. But it's just based off of my observation. I do feel like you're right. You're absolutely right. There is a difference between people performing a task and then wanting to stay alive. But at what point would even the best intentions fall victim to an emotionally based decision, such as, man, I'm always the one watching the door, or man, I got nobody else to worry about. Why am I giving this so much effort? I should just take off at night, grab a bag, and run. I mean,
well, yes. I mean, you may have those kind of individuals, but I think in the end, people realize that there's safety in numbers, and also especially if you've been surviving with each other for such a long period of time, bonds are created where, yes, okay, maybe you don't have a blood relative, but those people essentially become your blood relatives because they're the only people you have left. And without them, then what do you have? In the end, you'll just, I guess, project those kind of familiar feelings with them, and you'd be more inclined to do your job to ensure the safety of everyone.
Basically, that responsibility to each other strengthens your resolve in doing your job correctly.
Otherwise, I mean, if you're just going to be a lone wolf, then why bother being with a group?
If you don't do what you're supposed to do, you'd end up getting kicked out of the in-group, and you'd be out on your own. Pretty powerful motivator.
See, and I think that's the best case scenario, because the other case is that you end up getting everybody else killed, right? You're the one in charge of the door, so you're like, oh crap, that person, you have to absolutely trust that person. I know in the extreme case of the zombie apocalypse, it's more of a it's more of a trivial thing. Their survival instinct would eventually become more relevant than their bond with one another, because they trust each other. But at what point does a zombie come through the door? Do you say, oh crap, I gotta do whatever it takes to protect this other person, even at the expense of myself, or do I need to get the heck out of there? And based off of my opinion, and based off of my studies at Walmart, it's that people are very, by their nature, selfish. And I don't think that that's like an intended decision, or at least in the States. I shouldn't speak for everybody, and this is, again, my opinion, as a very selfish-based, emotionally based decision-making people. So if fear strikes you and you got this onslaught, instead of a zombie, let's say a bear is coming at you in your group, the most you're going to do is like, hey, watch out, there's a bear coming. And then that person's going to split, right?
Well, again, you don't know what you're going to do in those kind of situations. That's where altruism comes in. You never think that you're going to throw yourself on the grenade. When that moment happens, either you do it or you don't.
Oh, wait a minute. There is a secret broadcast scene happening. The government has found us.
He just needs his headphones.
Oh, yeah, I should probably turn those on.
Okay, take your time. It's all right.
You're obviously a failure.
On button.
You failed to guard the door. You're out of the group.
I should.
Way to suck.
I'll go.
Hello?
Okay.
I am in my apartment, but I'm using my phone and a Bluetooth headset.
That explains it.
Just to catch Tip up on what it is we're discussing right now, it's just basically, Tip, the idea that in an actual zombie apocalypse, people, even with the greatest of intentions, will still make catastrophic mistakes to where the society that does survive wouldn't last very long. Chase made a very brilliant argument that it's impossible to know what you're going to do or how a person's going to perform unless you're in that life-threatening situation.
I disagree with everything you just said.
All right. We have the contrarian. Mr. Tip, please tell us, why do you feel that way?
So you're definitely going to get that strong man. And the world, people just are followers. So that strong man, if he's smart, will be able to organize, and it'll be like oldie-timey days.
Oldie-timey days?
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a scientific term.
What is the difference between a society in a post-apocalyptic environment banding together versus having a Lord of the Flies situation where it's all a struggle of who's in charge and who's most dark?
We have that anyways, and we live in fairly civilized times.
And you feel like that would persist past a catastrophic
Oh,
case?
absolutely.
All right, fair enough.
Sure, and also Lord of the Flies, you gotta remember, they were a bunch of kids. Maturity level is definitely much different.
I was comparing it to people, for example, at Walmart. And I always pick on the people at Walmart because they seem to be there with no purpose sometimes. But then again, that's a very cynical opinion. I certainly feel like there's a certain amount of selfishness that goes into people when they're trying to shop together. I don't know if this has ever been an experience with you guys, but like today, I was attempting to get into the aisle where they sell the diapers because I would like to purchase some diapers for my child. Jeff and Chase, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Have you experienced the group of adolescent teenagers standing in front of that particular area and kindly asking, "Oh, excuse me," and them not moving aside whatsoever?
Because I don't live in El Paso, I don't have to worry about a group of a teenager standing in the diaper area.
I think Jeff's critique was that there's a lot of teenage pregnancy in El Paso.
No, my critique is there's a lot of teenage parents, because pregnancy does not necessarily mean you're in there buying diapers until you've got a child. Usually, teenage pregnancies don't result from people who have a lot of planning.
My point is that they would fail to see that, you know, you need to work as a society, you need to work together in order to make things better, but rather they're so engrossed into their own perception of reality. I mean, and I feel like that's especially true in the social media age where you have that platform of Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and you kind of forget that, you know, society includes other people than just yourself, and the optimal way to make things work out is to help each other.
I don't know anything that you just said, but I did think of a very funny joke that is a little bit risque in regards to diapers.
Go on.
What does a 60-year-old woman taste like?
Dust? I don't know.
Pampers?
My head hurts. Dust in the wind?
No, depends. Hey, is this live?
Yes, absolutely it is.
Oh. So, like, if I were to sign on to YouTube right now, I could watch this podcast?
Don't, because we'd get an echo.
Yep. No, we are not live at the moment, but I thought it would be funny to tell you that we were.
We told him a lie.
We did tell him a lie. Now that Tip's completed all this effort to be here, I think we should call it a night, gentlemen. And,
yes, I think so.
I think it's a great time to... No, I'm just kidding.
That's very jackassery of you.
But yeah, I mean, adding back onto what I was saying earlier is the idea that people unintentionally... Like, I don't think anybody intentionally would work towards each other's detriment. I think it's more of a... Like... What are you hearing hypocrisy in my voice? Is something happening? I don't know.
Because in the real world, that's all anybody ever does.
I'm not talking necessarily in like a business environment. I mean more in like a survival environment. You know what I mean?
How is that any different?
Well, for instance, like Chase was saying, the more people you have, you're going to begin to take on these roles, and you're going to form these bonds, and you're going to become closer, and you realize that, you know, of the people you need to survive, the people you're with are the closest. I mean, just for survival standpoints, your value of other people is going to go up tremendously.
Not necessarily. Well, there's always going to be people who freeload or given the opportunity.
Eat your French fries off your plate.
Yeah.
That's a very specific example, Tip. I feel like you've been victim of this.
Yeah, multiple times.
Would you care to elaborate? Was there somebody who did this recently? Who hurt you, Tip? Who hurt you?
Well, he's laughing in the background.
Hey, that was a long time ago.
Great. Now we have to find out if it was an emotionally driven decision to steal Tip's fries.
Yep. It probably
was
was,
hungry.
because that's usually something that someone does when they're dating someone else.
Oh, damn.
So that would.
I was just hungry.
I want what he has. I'm going to take it. Yes.
Well, I finished all my fries, and I was like, well, he's not eating his.
I mean, just because I hadn't gotten to them yet.
So that proves my point. Chase work to the detriment of Tip.
Unintentional detriment, though. It kind of helps with my point as well.
No,
so.
intentional.
It was very. He wanted fries. I had fries. He ate said fries. I no longer had fries.
But he was under
I
the
ate all
assumption
of
you were
them. I
done.
don't think I ate all of them.
No, he was under the assumption he wasn't eating them fast enough.
Ah, good point. I concede. People
You should.
people work intentionally towards the detriment of each other.
Well, at that time, a long time ago, Tip had the propensity to never finish his food.
Well, yeah, there was that too.
He probably would have left his fries had you not actually stolen the fries. Borrowed the fries with the intention of not returning.
No fries are left behind.
I never understood why they would serve us fries. I mean, they should ask you if you want fries.
Are you referring to some sort of lunch, high school cafeteria thing?
Restaurants in general.
They always ask you, do you want fries with that?
No, they say small, medium, or large.
Well, also, if it's like a
Because
sit-down
it's
restaurant,
on the menu that it comes
it's on
with
the-
fries.
yeah, it comes with fries. Yeah,
I'm just saying there should be more options.
there are a lot of options. There are a lot of side options.
There's baked potato. There's chili. Caesar salad. Well, no, not Caesar salad. House salad. Hey, did you guys hear that McDonald's
Soup.
salads making a bunch of people sick?
That's what
Well,
I don't know. I saw a little blurb
why would you
about
go to
that.
McDonald's for the salad?
Well, why would you go to the salad? Period. I mean, this is just this is a reason to not eat healthy anymore. When you try to do the healthy thing, you go to McDonald's and you force yourself to get a salad because you're trying to do good, and then you get like listeria
stop.
or something. It's terrible.
You
You're not
try
trying to
to
get
do the healthy thing, so you go to McDonald's.
Exactly.
Yes, I can see that, you don't go to McDonald's with the intention of eating healthy, but I can see a situation where you could be at McDonald's with people because you didn't really have a choice, which can sometimes happen sometimes. You're trying to do decent, so you think, what's the least terrible thing I can eat here because I'm still hungry? And you order something from McDonald's, which is their salad, and then, forget it.
When I go to McDonald's, I figure I'm already there, so might as well, and I just get the Big Mac. There's no reason to pretend to, I might as well try to be healthy. No, you're at fucking McDonald's.
It's true. If you're in the pool, you might as well splash around a bit. But then again, that's an emotionally based decision. So it kind of stands to reason that most of the people that try to do things for if they try to do things for the betterment of something, even in their attempt to do better, they're going to be flawed. Not because they're trying to be wrong, but because we are, what's the word I'm looking for? Inherently flawed as human beings, even in our best attempts. So I question whether or not we would actually be able to survive in a larger than life scenario such as a zombie apocalypse.
So I went on YouTube and I just found a YouTube channel that is 2 Korean girls twerking, and they have like hundreds of videos.
Sex sells.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we have access to Korean girls at this particular juncture in our venture, but
I'm not entirely sure how that's germane to the discussion.
I stopped listening to
the subject.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, I mean, that would be the challenge, right? To figure out how it is somehow related.
We were talking about
If we're going to talk
Being-
about videos that have a lot of views, there's a 6-year-old boy who's a millionaire because he does toy reviews.
didn't he just get hired by
Mhm.
Walmart or
Yes.
something like that?
Walmart.
Yes.
He's their spokesperson. They're gonna sell merchandise that's Ryan approved or something.
So we got how many kids amongst the 7 of us?
Tip, I have no idea how many you have. But you should probably figure
Well, I
out
got none.
that you're aware of.
Well, we probably have a bunch with Brandon.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean,
Well-
we could be millionaires many times over.
Are you insinuating he's somehow the true father of Ryan from Ryan's Toys review? That would be.
No, I'm saying that you guys need to start training your kids and get them on YouTube.
That's such a unique scenario. I don't believe in putting your kids on video or film. I don't. Not when they're too young to make an intelligible decision about whether or not they want to do that. You know what I mean? I think it's great that that kid's worth $11 million a year and is now getting a deal with Walmart. But how do you put your kid on video with? I mean, even if they say yes, they're a kid. They can't give you a permission to be this new sensational thing, and it may destroy their lives. They're going to go to school, and their friends are always going to know them as that thing. And I don't know. Sorry.
So you mean like that time you pooped your pants and now everyone at school knows you as the kid who poops his pants?
Yeah, exactly like that.
So you're saying the private tutor that they're able to hire with all his millions of dollars is going to be prejudiced against this kid?
No, but the private tutors would not have been possible if he wasn't a success. What if he wasn't a success and it was just
Well,
a parent
then he'd-
trying to make money, and then the kid is still that it is in that image of what their parents
Well-
tried to do.
Wouldn't
Wasn't
the
a
kid
success, he
be?
wouldn't be well known.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yes. I don't know.
I mean, the whole reason he's well known is because he's a success.
Okay, Chase, would you ever have your child in a toy review thing if there was the possibility of $11 million a year? Would your wife allow you to do that? Is a better question.
Like every time we see these videos, I just get angry because it's like, I'm just supporting this nonsense. I'm giving them the views, which is then giving them money. But when your own son's like, I want to watch it, and then so.
Well, it's better than all the Elsa murdering
Yes.
Well, that's true.
Mickey
That's true.
videos.
The way I kind of saw it was the future of home videos, where back in the past, your dad would be with his huge camcorder playing, filming you playing with whatever toys on Christmas.
Well, let's be
And
honest.
now-
Our entire lives, people have been doing that. You remember America's Funniest Home Videos?
Yeah,
Yep.
well,
The
it's fine,
same
yeah.
idea.
Excellent
The same
point.
idea, yeah.
America, fuck yeah.
But I don't know. I guess if that's the kind of money we'd be getting, why not? I mean, who knows if he'll go into something more famous as he grows older, or maybe just one of those things that's in his past.
My worry is that gamble of him being stuck with that identity, and we then give birth to the new child actors, but now they're child YouTube stars. And at that age, they're so influential. So anything that they're being told and they're being given stuff for, they're going to want to agree with. What I worry about is, at what point is that? I don't want to say exploitation, because it is exploitation even from the very beginning. But at what point is that unfair to the kid who doesn't really have a full grasp on the vastness?
What they're doing?
Exactly. Like does Ryan have any idea how big his audience is and how influential what he says is to kids and what he does?
I don't think he cares. I think all he cares about is that he's getting toys to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess suppose as long as when he turns 18 he gets compensated accordingly.
Unless you're like one of those parents who purposely put aside money that they earned as well, right?
True, but for doing the filming, buying the toys. It's just, since
being
he's the central
compensated.
focus of the video, I worry that, it's a weird feeling with me. Am I saying it's wrong? No. I'm sure people can do it tastefully and it's fine. It's just, like, my kid watches Ryan Toy Review, so I'm obviously not against it. He's happy when he does that, but it's just, I don't know. It's a thing about kids. I don't feel like they should be involved in things that they're not
Aware of?
they're not aware of, they're not capable of knowing how to be aware of it. Like, they're not mature enough to say yes or no in a correct way. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's one of those things in contention for a long time with child actors.
That whole child actor Hollywood, like the last thing I want to do is let my kid be involved in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, sure.
And a lot of that is watching some of this stuff, like Elijah Wood being just explaining how, yeah, it's just all some racket to abuse kids. Yeah, I'm not gonna let my kids go anywhere near that.
Yeah, I mean, didn't Justin Bieber say something to that effect as well? That there was a whole like really ugly side to kids being in Hollywood. And I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to get into it without more
Justin
specifics.
Bieber's not really a moral compass, but I'm
But why? I mean, think about that. Just as an exercise. Why is he not? What happened to him? That he turned from somewhat of a normal kid? Was he always like that? And that was just a progression of things. Did his ego get carried away? That's easy to believe. Or did something happen to him? The same way something happened to Amanda Bynes, the same way something happened to Lindsay Lohan, the same way something happened to Macaulay Culkin. I mean, I think
Justin Bieber was always a douche.
What we're learning from this conversation is that Pat is a believer.
I find that greatly irrelevant. But
and no denial.
You know, here the point being
Yep.
is that there is in my mind a obvious victimization of those who aren't aware to make decisions at that early of an age, and at the very least it puts themselves in this mindset of a pedestal that they can't sustain into adulthood, when the rest of us getting into adulthood realize, wow, that it's a good thing our pedestal is so low, because the world is kind of tough. There's a lot of Walmarts.
I think people make a lot of their own problems.
Fair enough.
And I think a lot of that comes from this need to compete with everybody else. I don't know.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Life is not tough for me at all. There are aspects of my life that suck, yeah. But as far as tough, I wouldn't say my life is tough. Compared to other people, my life is like fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
But even on a different level, I live in a place with a roof and air conditioning. Like, I can turn a machine on and I'm cooler. There's people out there that don't have that. And you know what? I bet you those people, they're sitting there thinking, man, that guy that has to drink water from that stream, he's got it rough. My stream is clear. So it's all relative.
I can't argue with that.
First world problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. People go, oh man, life is so tough. I just don't think they think about it, because really isn't. You're breathing, you're eating.
Yeah, and you know, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, I do, but I can imagine where if you had like a child actor who was brought up to believe that they were owed the world.
That's just a fault of parenting.
Yeah. That's not in any sense. I mean, that is definitely the parents' fault. That has nothing that could happen if the kid was an actor or not.
Well, let's take it a step further, where the kid is now worth millions, and you hear these stories of kids who are able to disown their guardians, and then they move on. They have new legal guardians, but they're still, I mean, they've in effect become more powerful than their parents financially. They believe in the delusion that was created for them by the people that are using them to make money. So I'm not in any way saying that you're wrong, Tip. You're absolutely right. I mean, enjoying life is, by foundation, is an appreciation. But that's given that you recognize life as it is that other people have it worse, other people have it better. But imagine growing up with the concept that you're the best ever, people owe you things for what you have done for them already, and you can do nothing wrong ever. So go drive a car, kill a person, and have your parents bail you out of it, and you'll be fine. That sort of thing. That, to me, is just validating, or not validating, it's reinforcing the opinion that I have that it could be very easy to do something wrong with involving children and any type of entertainment medium, especially YouTube.
What was he saying? I just stopped paying attention.
No, it's because Tip was making an excellent point of saying that he doesn't feel like he lives a tough life, but that's a sign of the maturity that you developed as you grew up with proper parents.
I understand what Pat's trying to say here. The ability to recognize how well you have it is how mature you are, and also shows you have a better sense of the world around you. Those who don't think that way are always going to be very narrow-minded and very self-centered in their thinking.
Exactly. I mean, that you nailed it. And it's nothing that they did on purpose. I don't even fault them for it, because they were essentially raised in a environment where there can never be wrong. So every decision that they make is about them. It's about them. Now, do I think that spreads to everybody? Not really. There are several great parents still out there teaching, raising their kids correctly. I mean, Jeff and Chase included. It's hard when you see other.
Well, that remains to be seen.
No, I mean the fact that you question it means that you're analyzing it, which means that you're good parents. You're trying to do the right thing. But there are those that I've witnessed, and I don't know any better, but my assumption is that they don't give their kids a lot of attention, and they're running around. They're being watched by their grandmothers more than it seems fair to the grandmother, to the point where it makes it feel like the grandmother's the one doing the rearing of the kid.
So what you're saying is your brother is a shitty parent?
No, where did you get that from? Get me in trouble. No. Hey, matter of fact, I have gone to him for advice on how to do things with my kids, because I mean he's got it on lock here. Tip, please.
Oh, poor Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, he called you Uncle Tip the other day when he answered the phone.
He did, and it freaked me out.
Man, he knows who all you are. All are.
So I called Pat, answered the phone, and he goes, "Hi, Uncle Tip," and I was just like, "Who the fuck is it?" I couldn't even remember his name.
I hope
Did I call the right phone number? Did I not call my sister?
He asks him that. Who the F is this? Why do you have Pat's phone? Hi, Uncle Tip.
But yeah, it just like really blew my mind that this kid that I mean, he knew exactly who I was when I called.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is teaching
Probably
them,
because your name popped up on the phone.
That means a 2-year-old knows how to read.
Tip, he's 3. He's 3. Tip, please.
That's still pretty damn impressive.
Thank you, sir. I'll pass it along to his mother. She'll be very happy to hear that. But yeah,
That guy house.
Sounds like somebody's in trouble.
See, we're witnessing it live. Master parenting by Chase. Let's
You made a
listen.
bad guy house.
Why not
I
make
can
a
see
good
it from
guy?
here.
The bad guy house is really cool, huh?
He's making the
Well, if it is a brothel, I guess so.
Oh, okay.
That's where the bad guys go.
clothes.
Okay. Bye bye.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, that's what I mean, is that there's this effort made to help the kid understand, the situation. There's not like I could see where many people ignore their kids because they're too busy with what they're doing, but
Like now.
no, but you talk to
Why are you bothering me,
Get out of
son?
this room.
I don't care.
That's nice that you built a bad guy house. I don't care.
Oh, but you see,
Go
but you
away.
talked to him, you worked with him through it, and then he left. You didn't just be like, "Get the hell out of here!" I mean, what are you doing here?
That's what I heard.
Oh, okay, well, fair enough. That's the reason I fear that people's inherent problems are very selfish. That's my whole point of this discussion.
There's a lot of different kind of parents you have. You have those so here, because there's the culture of having the parents want you to have kids because they want grandkids. So they kind of pressure the couple to have kids.
Isn't that kind of everywhere? I'm serious in my question there. Isn't that kind of like, hey, when am I gonna have grandkids? Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yeah, sure. There's that, but I think here the pressure is even more so than that. The way you're saying it, it's more of like a subtle kind of kidding. Like, okay, yes, I would like grandkids, but
So my mom has passed
your
the
time.
settle and is seriously considering getting me a mail order bride.
Hey, I mean, if they're on sale,
I guess why not? Yeah.
like she mentioned it, and I started laughing, and she didn't start laughing, and I was like, "Oh, you're serious?"
but I see what Chase is saying is that, when you have that pressure, then they give into that pressure, and then they have kids, and they didn't want kids.
Yeah, so they're used to having like this double income, no kids kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they have it, they're like, okay, just to shut you up, we'll have a kid, and then now here, you take care of it. So that's a mentality of a lot of parents here. They just dump the kid off the grandparents. The other common mistake is, like you said, the distractions. So there's like the cell phone distractions where kids are on the phones or the tablets, but it's also the same for parents as well. if you're too busy on your phone, texting or Instagram or whatever bullshit it is, and your kid is like, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, come play with me," but you're like, then they're gonna see that as being unaffectionate, and you're not giving the attention that they crave. So then they start doing bad things to get the attention from you.
Exactly.
See, I think we were kind of at that nice, perfect age of parenting where our parents were kind of forced to spend time with us because we were all middle schoolers, elementary school, high school, when computers and cell phones started really taking off. So like our parents were getting these phones and these computer things and they're like, oh, I don't know how to work this. Teach me. So it kind of
bridged the gap.
Yeah, bridged the gap to where we were both like, oh, this is really neat. Let's play with it together.
There's a lot less distractions as kids, and as we got older, those distractions gradually increased to the point where now parents today have no freedom from distractions. It's everywhere now. They have no idea what a life is where you're bored anymore because there's constantly stimulation everywhere. These kids, like Chase was saying, is they can feel like they're being ignored, or they're pushed to the side, or told they're building a Batman house. I don't know, but it's a very different. It's gonna be a very different world in the next couple of years. Tip, what's the greatest challenge you feel people have in survival if ever there was a catastrophic incident? What do you think is the one thing or one of the things that would cause humanity to fail if we had to restart once again?
People like you and me would not survive in a world without a grocery store.
That's a good point.
If it came to it, I could kill something to eat, but I'm at a disadvantage.
Do you think you'd ever be so hungry as to order a salad from McDonald's?
I hope
Maybe
not.
Eat at Arby's.
Oh. Poor Arby's. I like Arby's. I don't care what anybody else says. Amazing.
Yeah, they've really stepped up their game. Every so often they get these venison burgers.
Supposedly they have a secret menu where it's like they just pile everything on it. They call it just the mountain burger or something like that.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
They just pretty much stack whatever is on hand and put it between two buns.
What about you, Mr. Jeff? What do you feel could potentially work towards the detriment of society if ever we were faced with a catastrophic situation?
It's our reliance on modern technology.
I like that one.
Take away our electricity, put us back in the Stone Age, and the majority of the population will no longer be able to survive.
I do like the more specific example though, because it is very true how addicted and in fact dependent. It's kind of like Shawshank Redemption. For a while you hate these walls, and then you learn to get used to them, and after a while you learn to depend on them.
We've just made a different kind of prison, and all this information that we can seek out, we just look for a thing that confirms what we already believe. We have no real skill if everything fails. We have more access to this information that we don't use anyways, saying net neutrality is bad because I'll have to pay more for someone to tell me that I'm right.
Interesting. That is actually very interesting. We validate ourselves by finding the most random people on the internet that would agree with almost any opinion. If you looked hard enough on the internet, you're going to find someone who agrees with you.
They've done this thing. Searches for Alex Jones have gone up.
Yep.
Since he was kicked off of YouTube, and you're going to have to edit out his name because I hear YouTube fucks with your channel if you mention it.
Yes, that's a whole different story that happened with H3 and them shutting down their stream mid-stream.
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard about that, and no, don't worry about that. It's a little bit different because this is an opinion-based thing. I'll be very aware of it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and but like he's seemed to have grown in popularity when they made him taboo.
Well, the guy's hilarious. The guy is flat out hilarious. The way despite whether or not you agree with what he says, his rants are hysterical. He loses it every time. So great.
A lot of these obscure viewpoints are getting a lot more attention because of the opposition to them.
Yes.
So you remove Alex Jones, he becomes a huge popular guy because everybody wants to know why he's...
Now he's a martyr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same with all the extreme far-right rallies. You have all the people showing up to counter-protest, whereas if you just let them do their thing and saw, maybe a dozen people show up, you realize how dumb they are, and they wouldn't have as much of a
Podium or
yes.
Yeah.
So now we have all these big, large protests because everybody starts piling on, and they get more publicity than they ever would have gotten before.
I would
Yeah,
agree with
so YouTube, if you would like to make a big deal in banning us and stuff, 100% for it.
I doubt anybody would know. Be like, oh, they banned who? What an awful name. Good riddance. Chase, what is your opinion on that? Or do you agree with pretty much with what Tip and Jeff are saying, or do you have something else that you think might be a detriment?
Probably our lack of common sense.
Yes. Okay.
There's a lot of people who show a very lack of any kind of awareness around them, and their situational awareness will definitely get them killed very quickly.
Walmart.
The other two, they pretty much hit the nail on the head when
Of course
we've
we
been
did.
so civilized. Going out and, I don't know, jumping from trees and strangling deers is not in our repertoire of abilities.
Breaking off the antler to slit its throat.
I don't know if that ever was.
I would like to point out that I make notes throughout these podcasts so I can make the data tags later, and I'm forced to write down strangling deers. So thank you for that one.
I think though that we're lucky that we have a lot of us in our group of friends that have strengths in a lot of different areas. So we're like Sax. I think he's more of the hunter of the group.
You'd be the first person we lose. He'd be the first one gone. Cause
He'd contract some sort of weird ass disease 30 seconds in.
I could honestly see Sax trying to do the most to make everything to help everybody, but that would be the reason why he would go first, because he'd probably get himself eaten by a bear, or like Tip says, contracted disease, and it'd be like, oh man.
He would be the zombie. He would be patient zero.
My last feeling on that is actually to add on to what Chase said earlier about the parents who pressure the kids into like having kids, that mentality. Because I feel it goes deeper than just them wanting grandkids. It's that they obviously had kids, and they may or may not have been happy by it, but they made that decision. So misery loves company. And in their mind, there was a justification to have kids by like saying, if your kid says they don't want to have kids, but you did, then to the parent that may seem like a oh, you think you know better than me. No, you're just wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. You're being selfish or whatever. When in reality, they're just trying to justify why they made the decision that they did and push it on to somebody else. And I think that's where we as society struggle, is that we make up our minds about certain aspects of life, and in order to justify our beliefs, we push that on to other people, sometimes unfairly. And that's
or
what
they're just waiting to say, see, now you know how it feels.
exactly.
You did the same thing to me.
Exactly.
They just want to rub it in your face.
I'll put down vengeance as another one.
Vengeance, strangling deer. Man, this is interesting.
It's a great conversation. I think we came full circle here. Thank you guys once again for listening to the Jackass Express podcast. Please remember to go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Jackass Express, where you can leave us comments or questions or suggestions for things we can talk about. Also, please go to jackassexpress.com. You're going to see our wonderful lineup of everything that we have listed. We are having some issues re-uploading some of our older podcasts. We had an issue with our podcast host, but that's been resolved, and the old podcast will be re-uploaded because we all know.
And
that
then
you definitely
released
missed them.
via DVD as the lost episodes.
Sure.
$99.99 per episode.
Yep. 9. Keep putting nines, and then
Yeah.
eventually it'll work out. Please also consider subscribing to our YouTube channel.
We accept doggy coin.
Okay, I like it.
Is that how you pronounce it? Doggy coin.
I thought it was
Yeah.
Dogecoin.
Yeah.
I always thought it was doggy.
Obviously, you're a failure.
And also, please consider liking this video. That really helps us out. And if you would like to know, amongst the many of subscribers that you have, when specifically our videos come out, thank you first. And also, all you have to do is hit that little bell, and it will let you know specifically when our videos come out. Thank you for listening, and we shall see you next time. You may say farewell, everyone.
I think it's doggy.
Bye. Bye.
Jackass Express, welcome aboard. Jackass